Hello, Scott and everyone. Welcome to Awaken Hidden Truth.
I think we were playing around for about an hour or more, weren't we?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, about an hour and 20 minutes. Before we start the recording of the show, you're going to put on your YouTube channel, and that's as it should be. We have other things to work on, some personal issues and stuff like that. But ultimately, people change themselves because they're aware enough to do it, which means in order to change anything on a person's individual life on Earth, they have to do and be aware of doing something different than they're doing that put them in the problem they're in, whether it's diet or health, disease, relationships, sex, kids, whatever. If they want to change the way it is on Earth, the very first thing they have to do is discover what they are that is not and has never been a physical body. Not hear about it, not have faith and belief about it, but really know it. Because you can't change anything from this brain and this body. There's no power in here, in this brain and body, grown in one lifetime with the kind of poor education systems that are here, governments that don't get along, religions that don't get along. You're not going to grow up a really bright cookie. You're not going to be a very sharp tool in the shed, so to speak. When people start to discover with some courage that they awaken how to find truth amongst the morass of stuff that's out there on the internet, in the world, on the news, most of it's negative about almost everything, particularly in general about the present and the future of life on this earth. An individual that's caught up in that is worried about now and worried about the future. And that puts out a field of energy to this omnipresent living force that supports all these worlds and suns and moons and stars and tells it to co-create a negative situation for that person. It is a co-creator with us. It does not favor anyone. It does not suppress anyone. It simply responds to what we imagine in it, good or bad. So number one, a person needs to know what it is that imagines. And that is not the brain and body that they have. There's no facility in a brain that any psychiatrist, doctor, or scientist on this earth can prove to anyone else their imagination comes from here. There is absolutely no way they can prove that with science as it is on this planet. And they know it. So they work with theory and speculation and debate and try to teach people theory and speculation and debate. And they get PhDs in theory, speculation, and debate. And they still don't know any more than a rock in a lot of ways, because it is the spherical form of being that runs these bodies through the pineal gland, the center of the brain, the controlling gland through which a being runs a body and motivates it. That's not even taught in medical school. It's not taught anywhere openly on this planet, but it's true. The being, when it's aware that it's a being, instead of people, I've got a soul, it's an eternal, and it's over here somewhere. I got it in my pocket, I think. I don't know where I put it, somewhere. And they think that this is who they are, this body, this temporary lifetime, this DNA, RNA, and cells. That's just an evolution of a type of science that has brought the DNA of these kind of bodies to a point where an awake atma can run higher faculties of being through it. People aren't doing that. They're not really running higher back faculties of creation through the bodies. They don't even know they have them. So, what does it mean to run higher faculties of being through a body? Does it mean that people have power? No. Does it mean that they have the right to have power over others? No. Because the one power that supports all of us, forms and animals and plants and trees and moons and suns and stars and galaxies and parallel dimensions and higher realities and voids and the worlds above it and the realms beyond the void, is one energy. And it's a living conscious force. And we're all part of it, made of it even. That's not nuclear. It's not atomic. It's not made of electrons and protons and molecules and DNA and RNA. That's all matter. And that's only matter as it exists in the lower dimensions. That kind of matter doesn't exist in the higher realities. And there are higher realities that we all came from originally to get here. We came here a long time ago in order to experiment with forms like this, not just human, but other forms that can have sensory input from their surroundings made of the same molecules of the body, the same molecular time rate. You can smell things and see things and look at oceans and sunsets and have babies and do all this. We're supposed to be learning from that, transferred to what we are as conscious atmas, spherical beings, and then go back to the source from whence we come to deliver what we've learned and new insights into how to co-create ways to make it better than it is. Earth is not an example of a normal planet. People living on it are not typical of people living that are human on other worlds. Not yet. The potential is there for people on Earth to make a great leap in evolution on this planet. But we're not going to do it on our own with science as it's done now, with governments as they're run now, because they're very negative and suppressive, full of fear. Royal families on this planet are full of fear. I'm going to lose my power. People don't follow me anymore. So they use religions to control people, to keep them from having direct conscious experience about what they are. They're taught about soul, they're taught about faith, but they're not actually shown how to experience what they are while they're alive here. What are they? A brain and body they know is going to shrivel up and die one day? No. What's the point of that? 70, 80 years, trips around the sun, circles around the sun on one planet, and that's it? No. As far as I know, there's no teaching on this planet Earth yet, openly allowed by governments, that would tell people what they are and help them experience and remember and know what they are when they're infants born in this world, taught by parents and teachers and governments that are benevolent and kind and who encourage that. This planet's not like that yet. It's no wonder people grow up not knowing anything and being afraid of everything. Do I live after I die? What am I? What's a soul? They don't get answers. They get, just believe this on faith. Find out when you go to heaven. That's a crock of, I'm sorry, but it's not real. Because beings that's running a body is already a part of heaven. It's already a part of the source itself. It's comprised of energy that is not nuclear, atomic in nature, yet it's energy on a science, on a level that people on Earth don't understand yet. People in more advanced worlds know how to work with that energy that is in the void of space between all things. Planets and moons and galaxies and stars and galaxies, doorways to parallel dimensions and higher realms, they're all there. Every single atma running a human body on Earth is capable of knowing and understanding that stuff. But they're terrified of it. Subconscious drives they don't even know they have that says, ooh, I can't get out of my body. Demons will get me. Or, ooh, a reptilian will get me. Or some other negative thing will catch me. I try to point out to people, they've already been caught. They're on Earth with no memory or very little about who they were or what they did before this life or what they knew as a spherical being. A planet, a moon, and a sun are round. Why? They are made in the image of their creator or creators, or the one source behind all life, of which we're all a part and made of the same energy, co-creators. And they're round because they're patterned after the image of the source. This isn't what's patterned after the image of the source. The source doesn't look like one of these. They got that all wrong on Earth. And it's perpetuated to keep people stupid, ignorant. They can have an IQ of 300 and be dumber than a brick when it comes to really knowing who they are. When a being starts to recover who they are as an atma, their IQ goes off the chart. It can't even be measured on Earth. If you have a 100% developed brain, which all human beings do unless they're retarded or they've been damaged in an accident or something, we should be using 100% of that brain that's already 100% developed. And the only reason some of it's not on is because the being that's running that brain has long been made to forget how to do it or that it can. So it just doesn't use different parts of the brain because it doesn't remember who it is or what to do with itself on this planet. There's very little mirroring encouragement of what's really true on this planet concerning the grand multidimensional creation itself. And people think it's in their stupefied state on this earth. They think that all of that is something way in the infinite future they're supposed to understand later, way far away in the future, when we get beyond spaceships and go play among the stars. What they don't understand is they were already doing that long before they found themselves incarnated in a body on this earth with all their memory suppressed, one way or another. So it isn't so much that people have to go into the future and evolve to be a co-creator with the source itself, prime creator. They can call it supreme being if they want, but that's kind of like tyrant talk. Supreme Lord over all, and you better pray to me or you're going to go to hell. That's fear. That's not a loving God. That's just fear. It's what tyrant kings use to control people in the last 10,000 years on this planet. And they're going to give that up because it's being removed from them anyway. They are not going to be allowed to keep that going the way it's been going here. Because this world is being designed to step up to bat and take its part in a greater organization of world systems. You know, the technology to cure disease, we know it's in the genomes on the DNA on Earth. They know if they can figure out how to turn off and on, there won't be any cancer, there won't be anything, not even aging. They know it's there. They just don't have the science to properly deal with it because all those genomes on DNA are accessed by precise frequencies. They're like switches. You turn them off, you turn them on. Anybody on Earth that's in a powerful position, has a lot of money, and really wants to change, they realize it's a trap, they realize they're not going to get out of this life with any of it, they're going to want to seek answers just as much as everyone else. And if they do the right thing in the right way, they will get those answers. And people from other worlds and other systems and master teachers from other worlds will meet them. But not because somebody on Earth is going to demand to control those people coming here for the selfish reasons they want. That's never going to work. Never. Ever. Never. Never. Because space is already occupied by far more advanced races, most of them are. And we're going to have to join with them. And I don't mean be controlled by them, by a tyrant, evil alien race coming here. No. There's never been any evil alien race came here and bombed everything into oblivion on this planet, like you see in some movies. If they're so powerful out there, couldn't they have done that a long time ago? It's better people ask themselves why they haven't. They're not asking the right questions at all. They're being misdirected. Why haven't aliens come here and taken over this world for our own good? Because people here would just annihilate themselves the way they are. They've tried. Something prevented them. Something not on this earth prevented that. That's the leap that this planet and its people have to take. And they're going to have to take it. The past fuller flips of the planet every 100,000 years that wiped out all life and then had to be brought here and reseeded, including human life and different races brought here again every 100,000 years. This is not a normal planet. It was never like other worlds that have human life on them, that lived for millions of years with uninterrupted polar shifts like Earth has had. Now, technically speaking, in the last number of few years, the poles of this planet are permanently stopped from flipping. They won't happen again. That wasn't done by people on Earth at all. So it behooves people who are operating as human beings on Earth, but who really don't know what that is. They think a human being is a body. It's not. That's a label they've slapped on this type of development, whether it's Asian, Caucasian, African American, whatever it is. They are representative of human forms that exist and evolved with those differences on other planets, some with more than one sun. It's common sense. Those kinds of fields of energy, depending on where the planet is and moons and how many suns it has, affect these subtle changes in human conditions. But these changes did not evolve on this planet. Asian people don't look Asian because they evolved over there on one planet in one atmosphere differently than African Americans or Caucasians or Indians or any of that. These beings were brought here from other worlds where they did evolve. You're never going to find a missing link to Cro-Magnon, Neanderthal man ever on this planet because it doesn't exist on this planet. When this planet was capable of sustaining life with its vast oceans and all that, even before there were polar ice caps here, life from other worlds was brought here as part of a natural evolution of more advanced races. When dinosaurs were made extinct, life like ours could be here and start to develop. There have been great civilizations on this planet, higher than any people even know today, that were wiped out in a night when the poles flipped. Beings that were aware enough could get off the planet or be taken through an interdimensional doorway to safety because they knew how to access them. Science. People that couldn't died here. Most of them, mammalian and animal life, died here. A polar flip is a violent affair. It wipes out almost everything, raises new continents from the seafloor and sinks the ones that are there. It happens very violently, very quickly. That's why it's so classified, the fact that these polar shifts are overnight, not these long periods of gradually becoming an ice age and all of that. So this planet has now had done for it, from outside, from beyond it, the cessation of all polar flips. Now it has the chance to grow. And human beings have a chance to remember who they are. It isn't one of these. Never was, never will be. This is the truth I'm telling people now. And whether or not they accept it or can live with it or change with it is for their benefit or not. Because what I'm sharing with you and your listeners is simply they used to know this stuff and were made to forget it in quite diabolical ways long before they were born here. And all of that is reversible under the right conditions. We were talking a bit before we started that you had somebody from Australia that wanted some questions answered or a question answered.
Yeah, I have not only from Australia, I have from, can I start from Dennis before
Sure.
the
Yeah,
question?
you bet. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
He said, I have listened to you for a while on Paris show. The ETs have come to this earth over a long period of time, and it seems people on this planet have been loosed of life force energy. It still goes on today, especially with our children. Have all the bad guys gone? Thank you.
Yeah, the bad guys are gone as far as when people hear about reptilians and underground bases and all that, and little grays abducting people. They don't do that anymore. Has anybody even been paying attention on this world? In the last 20 years, have there been any new stories of real abductions? No, because that was stopped, but it wasn't stopped by our people. And the removal of tyrants who got into agreements with world leaders after World War II, they weren't removed by our people either, because they had greater technology and we couldn't get them out. Somebody had to take them out of here. And that was by agreement, and they were sent away. But the effect that they had psychologically and subconsciously on people remains. World leaders, massive people, the abuse of people by tyrant royal families. People did that whole royal bloodline thing did not get created out of the blue on this earth from primitive man. That was imported to this world from worlds that had those systems already in place. And under treaty, different races were allowed to have scientific experiment research stations here. In secret, they were not supposed to reveal themselves to the public of the presence of people over here, and their purpose was to raise the level of consciousness of beings running bodies on earth that were brought here. Tyrants don't do that. They suppress consciousness to lord things over people. Good beings that are not even talked about in the history of this planet or taught to children growing up at all, including great civilizations that have lived here, aren't even discussed. Only the negative ones, the royal family, the tyrant ones. That's what kids are taught in school when they grow up. That's their history. Let's go back 10,000 years, maybe a little further. That's nothing. It's not the real history at all. And it leaves out conveniently all of the other races that were allowed to be here, to have scientific research stations here, who brought beings and human and others here they didn't suppress. Tyrants were allowed to bring their own slaves here to do the dirty work, like mining in small areas of Earth. They were never allowed to dominate the whole world, and none of them ever have. The good races out there didn't want to run things here in the first place. They want beings here to run it properly. Beings I work with from off-world and other planets are not interested in controlling the governments of this planet, but they're also not interested and will not tolerate governments on this planet competing with themselves and wiping this world out in a nuclear holocaust. That's already gone the way of the dodo. They're not going to allow that, because that would harm life, not just on Earth, but life in the galaxy and life in parallel dimensions that are accessed through interdimensional doorways in profuse number around this planet, third planet from the sun. And extraterrestrial races understand this stuff, some more than others. So they're not going to allow that. What they do want is for governments and people that are in fear right now of losing their power and terrorized more than the people they rule, to start to take a little leap of faith, if we want to put it that way, a leap into knowing certainty from fear and doubt and all these traumatic, biological, harmful things that they're doing. They're putting out fear of the future, fear for the people, fear of nuclear war, fear of North Korea, fear of China, fear of Putin, fear of Russia, fear of the United States. All over the world, all these countries aren't really working together. And they think they're going to go out and militarize space and compete for territory. That is the biggest illusion that could ever have been perpetrated on leaders on this world, because they're never going to be allowed to do it. The highest classified people already know this. They've met some of these races. They know we're not going to go play out among the stars the way we are. Our solar system is quarantined. The whole thing. It's not a vindictive, nasty tyrant control. It's to keep us from destroying life out there. We're not going to be allowed to play among the stars and be given the higher technology, healing science, genome science, disease science, unless we can be trusted to utilize it in a kind way for all life. Because if we can't, and you know right now people in the world are not conscious of doing this, then we're going to be denied it. And we're going to be kept in the background until we're willing to change. I know for a fact that governments on this planet were secretly offered transformation of this world several times since World War II. And they turned it down. Tyrants offered the older technology to get a treaty, which unfortunately these people were manipulated into accepting against their better judgment. And they've been struggling to get out of that agreement ever since. Their lust for power to maintain the status quo is what got them trapped in the first place, by beings who knew how to manipulate that. Kind beings, wonderful beings, most of the human and humanoid races and other races out there that aren't human that are kind, do not dominate other worlds. They work together in harmony. Most of them don't even have money. They don't allow it. It's illegal. Because then you can control people with it. Get them conditioned to it and then deny them it. Take it away. Very simple. The money is practiced on this planet. We have to use it, all of us, because it's the condition of the way people think. They make it valuable because of how they believe about it, but it isn't. There's no value under any of the currency on this planet. No gold, no platinum, no silver, nothing. Digits in a computer and ink on paper, that's all it is. So we can use it and consider it valuable as long as we're brainwashed enough to do it. Or people can realize it's just energy, and the money is just energy in the form of money. It's just a type of omnipresent energy that's been put into this form and perpetuated and promoted as what you need to live. Where does it ever say in multidimensional galactic history that you have to pay for the right to be born on a planet? Only tyrants make that up. And I'm not bad-mouthing anybody on this earth. I'm really not. And I'm not saying don't use money and go live in a teepee, and ignore the world, because no one can do that anymore on this planet. Too many people, everything's owned. Even the forests and the vast lands that are on earth are owned by governments or controlled by governments, or they're parklands, and you can't just go into a cave somewhere and live like you could several thousand years ago. So there's a way to work with the systems that exist on this planet, working with money or whatever, without destruction, without having rioting in the streets, without having people starving, without any of this, and make this transition. But it's going to require that we accept, kindly and respectfully accept, the assistance of more advanced races, human and otherwise, who are willing to help us do this. They're not going to force it on us. But how long we suffer in the unconscious state people are in on this earth, trying to play in space, and when we get to actually do it, depends on how we're willing to grow up as beings, not bodies, not materialistic, senseless nonsense. And when I share with you that what we are that runs a body is indestructible, it isn't destructible at all. It's not made of nuclear energy. You can't blow it up with a hydrogen bomb. It won't affect it. It's the energy behind positive and negative streams of molecules and electrons. It's the energy supporting it. It's not made of the same thing. It isn't the same. So when we start working with the energy that is the 0 point or toroidal or energy of the universe in the void of space, it isn't nuclear. The sooner scientists get this understanding, the more quickly they'll adapt to be able to work with that energy and how to work with it. Because there are races out there that understand this and have for hundreds of millions of years or longer. If we want to take a leapfrog into joining Star Trek, you're not going to do it in the future with nuclear-powered warp cores. It's destructive. It's man-made. It's altered energy. It's destructive. It's radioactive. No. That's not going to work to get you across the stars faster than the so-called speed of light. You got to work with the one energy in the universe to do that. You can't get around this. So it means normal human beings on normal planets are aware of what they are that isn't a physical body and what other dimensions are. And they know how to work with them on a scientific way. If you want to know the frequencies to turn on shut down genomes on DNA in human bodies, you got to be trusted with that information, or you'll just abuse it like people already have to shut them down, to stuff a person in a body here and make them forget everything. That's through the misuse of science on other worlds, by the way. So out there among the stars, that's all been stopped. So there isn't any support, like was promised, to come here from tyrant beings with a hidden elite classified and help them take over the world. They don't have that support anymore. It's gone. They're only left with one option now, and that is to grow up as beings. And that means remembering much about what we were made to forget, one way or another. I could tell you what truth is, or I could demonstrate it and have you demonstrate it with yourself, co-creative with me to get there, to have your own experience with it. That's what I prefer to do. So let's go to this question. Did I answer Dennis's question, or?
Yes, you did.
Let's go to another one.
Tanya from Australia. What is the Earth transition going to look like when we raise in frequency? Will it be fast in some or all areas, such as the moon's dramatic change, etc.?
There's only one answer I have for her, and she already knows what it is. I'm not going to spoon feed her answers to all her questions. They'll spurn 10,000 more questions, and they'll just be seeking data and information for me instead of experiencing the knowing for themselves. Nothing will change a person on this earth learning something from me unless they can experience it for themselves. So in her case, in her situation, if she's already read it, the Sayre's agenda pretty much lays out how things will unfold. It does not predict a time and a date, and it's purposely done that way. I'm not a psychic prognosticator of events to come, because none of those things ever happen when they're predicted. It's misleading. Things will come this way when people on this earth are risen enough in consciousness, generally when they're helped, when they're out of the bodies every night, when they go to sleep. So when they come back to the body in the morning, they have a different, more enlightened consciousness. That way people can begin to change. And I'm talking about world leaders as well. They get out of their bodies every night too. So that the world can go through this accepting kindness from other worlds and make this transition, like it's been done on other worlds that were at a critical stage of self-destruction like Earth is right now. Does everybody ever stop to think that maybe none of those worlds that survived that were entirely on their own to get through it? Maybe this is the way things work in the universe. At some point, either the world gets destroyed and we all go looking for more bodies as Atmas running bodies, or you're evolved enough to not want to create incarnating in another body. You don't have to. Oh, and if you do, you should be able to be aware of what you are that isn't a body and run it and gain experience and go back and share it out of body up in the other worlds and get things changing here. You can't change it from the physical level with a physical brain and body from here. It's not possible, because this brain and body doesn't have the power or the awareness to change worlds. The Atma running it collectively with others does have that wisdom, because we are comprised of and connected to the source itself. And we're meant to be co-creators with that source, period. Why we exist as living beings is to one day be trusted to be a co-creator with that source, which means we intentionally only create with our imagination which will be of uplifting benefit to all life in the entire grand multidimensional creation. That is the destiny of a human being. Whether they like it or not, ultimately, that's where they're going. Other beings in other worlds have gotten there ahead of us. And to get there, you cannot be a tyrant, or you cannot get there. You cannot become an enlightened world number of races and then dominate and lord it over other races that don't yet remember. Only tyrants do that, take advantage of that. So this is what we're doing on Earth. The answer is in the Sayre's Agenda book. I'm not going to give anyone any answers about dates and times. I've made that clear many, many, many times. Because if I did that, I'd be stepping down into the lower plane energies and being misdirected by those predictions. I don't do that. I work with the hue, the pure underlying energy in all creation that is not of a negative and positive nature. It's not psychic. There's good and bad to psychic, but there's a pure energy behind it that is not vulnerable to be affected by negative things or misdirected. And it's a telepathic medium. This toroidal 0-point energy out there is a telepathic living energy force, and we're part of it. And we can connect into it through the hue, the first half of the word human, and begin to actually change. I don't know of any other way to do it than to take responsibility for what we are as a being, recover that, and begin to fulfill our purpose for existing. And that purpose is to help find ways, the bigger problems of eternity, to make the lower worlds of time and space and planets like Earth mirrors of realities that don't have positive and negative in them, not good and bad, beyond all that. Because they existed before the worlds of time and space were even constructed. And we were all part of it. People think they don't have any idea this is the only life they live and they go to some heaven. Purely impractical. How could immature beings be allowed to go wander around in some higher plane, as dumbed down as they are, and go wreak havoc up there with their naivety and ignorance? That's not possible. We have to go to such higher realities being responsible and knowing we get absolute freedom blended with absolute responsibility. for what we imagine. What we bring into creation is what we imagine. So the first thing people on Earth need to do is to begin to use their imagination in only constructive, uplifting ways. And until they do that, they're going to be putting out two opposing forces. Negative view of the future, and I want the best for my family. These are opposing forces that ground the energy into the earth and keep people stuck here. We're meant to use the imagination, which is not made up in the brain, in one constructive, uplifting way. The Atma understands this, particularly when it awakens those higher faculties to know this again, because it once knew it. So this is what we're about recovering here, what we really are that isn't this. If you want to have a relationship with vast hosts of extraterrestrial beings, you have to be able to stand your own ground and walk with your head high amongst them. Why would they pick anybody up in a ship and take them out there who's throwing their vomit and demanding of power and control on them like a spoiled child throwing a tantrum? They'll just back away from them. They want to work with rational people. They want to work with people that have a sense of self-respect and respect for them. They won't work with anybody any other way. That's important that I share that with people. If they're ever going to have a ghost of a chance of getting a spaceship ride or reunited with lost loved ones or anything else, they cannot come at it from throwing control and power on it, which most people are doing on Earth right now, because it backfires on them. It's one of the laws of the physical universe. What you put out comes back. Every action creates an equal but opposite reaction. It's the law of physics, primary law. And this works with emotions and mental thoughts and imagination too. Do you have any other questions?
Yes, one last question from Victor. Said, back in 1929, a final appeal was given to humankind by the Coalition of Civilization. It was ignored. Do you know about this? The background information. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that bases were built here on this planet that are extraterrestrial in nature. Some in 1908 and other time periods. And they were put there to maintain an oversight on under treaty that came about at the end of a great galactic war 500,000 years ago. That treaty's been policed ever since. Earth has been a planet caught in the middle of a treaty that has to do with imbalances within our solar system, polar flips of the planet that destroys all life, or nearly all of it. It has to be reseeded many times, recolonized. So this is really important because the missing puzzle of people in the history of this world that goes back 65 million years to the time the dinosaurs were made extinct, the big ones. Beings have been coming here from other worlds. Human beings that did not evolve on this planet. The galactic history goes back billions of years before Earth even existed, and out amongst stars, amongst billions of galaxies on multidimensional levels, and there's one energy underneath all of that. That big dark area you see in photographs of billions of galaxies is hugely more vast than the things that float in, these little galaxies. That is a living type of energy that human eyes can't detect. They're not designed to see a high enough frequency to see what that looks like, because it isn't black. It's a white golden light. It fills the void of space everywhere. It's packed with energy, but it's not nuclear or atomic in nature. It's the mistake scientists are making on this Earth, trying to superimpose a materialistic view on something that is not made of matter as they know it. It is energy, but you can't figure that out using physical laws against that kind of energy, because it isn't that kind of energy. It doesn't respond to the use of physical laws at all. So here we are on Earth to answer the question for Victor. No, I didn't forget. There are stations on this world of an extraterrestrial nature, and they are shifted out of phase molecularly, so you can't detect them in radar. You don't even know they're there. They aren't there, at least the good guys anyway, that police the bad guys They aren't there to control the world. With their technology, they could have come down and kicked our ass in 10 seconds, a long time ago, and taken over. So ask yourself a more intelligent question. Who or what keeps tyrants from controlling this world? Because they've tried many times. They tried through Hitler. Didn't work, but they tried. They got control of his scientists and brightened them much beyond their earning, beyond their ability. Gave them science they didn't develop. There was an attempt to take over the world, to kill off 3/4 of the population and control what's left. That's exactly what it was. That failed. But the scientists that were SS officers in Nazi Germany, great admirers of Hitler, were brought into the former Soviet Union, United States, and pardoned, and put into positions of power in science to develop rocket programs and other things, because the Hitler scientists had been illegally given technology they did not earn. And this was unfortunately brought into both countries after World War II. And then the same influences started affecting world leaders covertly. It's a big, serious problem, because the beings doing this had more technology. They had an ability to affect people subconsciously without affecting their personality, their sense of humor, and yet misdirecting them in little ways. And this has been a great challenge for beings from other worlds to get that influence out of this world. People on Earth didn't get rid of their bad choices to sign up with tyrant ETs to get their old technology, to have a fight with the former Soviet Union and see who can get there first and all that stuff. That's tyrant crap. Tyrant teaching, completely. There's nothing good in any of it. Nothing good could ever come from any of it. There's not going to be any good come from nuclear bombs or radioactive isotopes that mankind has altered to be deadly if they get out of their lead case. The science should have been here all along to neutralize radioactive materials. If they know how to imbalance them, they should know how to rebalance them. Nobody's putting money in that. The science is well known off-world, obviously, and that's why they banned and made illegal the use of radioactive materials in their space travel and other things, because they don't use them. Not the way people on Earth do, not in dangerous ways, not in ways that could explode and pollute the space out there. We're not going to be allowed to take on weaponized space, because give it up. You're going to be outgunned if you step off this planet. You're not going to be able to do it, because beings out there aren't going to tolerate it. And they have every right not to tolerate it. We do not have the right, as a planet of unconscious, misguided human beings, to blow this place up or go throw up our crap on everyone else, whether it's religion or the way we govern things. We just don't and will not be given that right. Not now, not ever. So if people want to play among the stars, and I'm sure we all do, we have to grow up a bit, finally. And we're not going to be able to do it on our own. We're going to need the assistance of both technical and advanced scientists, very more awakened spiritual people, in order to make this transition into higher consciousness. This world, as crazy it is actually on the cusp of being able to do that. First thing that had to happen is the cessation of polar flips. Done. Doesn't change the consciousness. People are twisted into running in subconsciously, because they don't even know what's in the subconscious. They know they have a subconscious mind. They don't know where it is or what it is or what's in there. That's a problem, because they're not supposed to have a subconscious mind at all as a normal human being. People on Earth don't know this, not yet, but they will. So there is a facility built inside Mount Shasta in Northern California. It was put there in 1908. Can a classified military go in there and bring their reverse engineered craft and attack it? No. No. It's not in this parallel dimension. It's in a higher frequency. They have control over matter in this way. If they want to lower a ship down in frequency with electromagnetic field around it so you can see it and detect it on radar, you will. But if they don't want you to, it's gone. From sight and detection of human senses, including radar. That's old technology out there. People don't come here in spaceships from the stars to be shot down by early developments of what do you call it, radar. That's nonsense. Complete nonsense. You don't travel across the stars vulnerable to something as simple as that. But yet that's what's been put out on the internet and other places about, what shot down craft like the one in Roswell. They classified the hell out of that the day after it happened because it was extraterrestrial related and they didn't want the world to know about the good and the bad they knew was around out there after World War II. So 35 countries classified it. But here's the kicker. Even they know they can't keep the lid on that forever because there's energy moving through the universe now that is moving one way, and it's going through getting this deception, dishonesty thing resolved. It's only destructive. No good can ever come out of it in the end. If governments and people continue to lie and deceive people to keep the status quo, they are in trouble because the energies that are moving through this planet now and will be in the future are going to neutralize that. That doesn't mean anybody's going to be targeted or shot or hurt. It means their consciousness is going to change. The Savior's Agenda book was written in a certain kind of particularly unique way. It was written showing characters Mark Sanfield and Janice Carter, humans on Earth like anybody else, who suspect they're being deceived, suspect there's a hidden government, try to disclose that, and they find out because of contacts, human, that contact them and save their lives, what they were made to forget before they were forced to be on this planet with no memory. They recover that. After they recover that, they become who they were before they were born here. And after that, they begin to work, not selfishly, but with more advanced beings to help change the way the world is for all their fellow beings here. They return to Earth to do that. The way that changes and how it changes is laid out in there. Not by me, by more advanced beings like Torellian, who I'm a co-creator with, and beings out in the Galactic Alliance. I consulted with them all along the process of writing that book, which is based pretty much on my own life. So the Savior's Agenda is about what's taking place and changing out among the stars that has to do with Earth, but also to do with them, not just about us. It's not just about us on Earth. The Emerald Doorway book, one of the Parallel Time trilogy with the 30 illustrations in it, is about what extraterrestrials, kind of how they were involved with people 100,000 years ago on Earth and out among the stars, what they were doing at the time of Lemuria before the last polar flip, and then what they're doing behind the scenes now on Earth. So the two connect the past with the present and the future. They're designed so they stimulate the awakening of dormant memories in people. They're designed so people, when they read what happens to Mark Sanfield and Janice Carter, begin to relate with it personally because it happened to them, one way or another. Think about the miracle that these books are even on this earth. People in power would have suppressed them, but they couldn't, because it would have been against their own good, their own well-being to do so. They know that. All right, so any other questions?
No, thank you.
Well, I keep wondering how many of these journeys I should do, how much time, how many years should be put into this to get the truth to people, because I'm not on this planet about power and money and fame and fortune. I can deal with being famous or have money, but I'm not attached to it. It's not, I can't possess power. People don't have power. They can delude people into giving up their own power to them, so they have an artificial power. but they really don't have control over the one living force that supports everything. It can't be controlled that way. We can imagine good and bad in it, and it will co-create it for us. We can imagine being free beings and playing with those among the stars and go through the experience of living it, how the Seres agenda unfolds. That needs to be experienced by each individual being on this planet. I am not going to spoon feed them answers to all these questions they have. I will help them and show them how to find those answers and wake them up in themselves. But I'm not going to do it for them. Doesn't matter who they are, what they think they are, or how much power they think they have. That is not my game. I'm not going to do it. Yeah. Because if they had it given to them that way, somebody waved a magic wand and gave them enlightenment, they'd lose it in 24 hours because of subconscious stuff they haven't dealt with. It would just pervert the use of their imagination, and they'd be trapped all over again. Beings that are more advanced out among the stars know this. They want to help people recover their own knowing certainty. We need to be giving up doubt and fear and speculation and debate, even faith. Faith is a good place to start, but a terrible place to end up. Faith should lead to experience, and experience leads to knowing, and knowing leads to being a co-creator with the source behind all life, which is why we exist. You can't avoid this destiny. So I would guess I have to say to people that our destiny as human beings is so wondrous, so majestic, so incredible. I can't even speak it on a radio show to people to try to get across to them what this is, because they need to experience it for themselves. So my work is about encouraging and helping people to have direct experience about what I talk about. I'm not asking anybody to believe what I do on faith. They've got plenty of religions on earth to do that. They can free to do whatever they want with that. But I don't have anything to do with the religions on this planet. None of them. I don't badmouth them. I wish them all well. I'm not in competition with them. I'm simply here to share a living, radiant reality about what the living force behind all life is in a conscious way, so they can start finding truth in their own belief systems as an experience, because that will drop away anything that isn't true. And they'll begin to recover their real core of their nature, which is not destructible. They're not a matter earth body. There's not a being running an earth body on a human being on earth that is physical. Bodies and brains, even mature adults, do not run themselves. If I weren't making this mouth talk, the body wouldn't do anything. The brain does not motivate itself. It doesn't think inside itself as a consciousness. It's a tool. There's no imagination capable within the human brain. It's one of the biggest things I bring to this planet. People haven't even thought of it. The brain does not imagine anything. They're never going to find a provable science anywhere on any laboratory on this planet that'll prove the brain imagines anything. It's theory. It is the being not made of matter running the brain through the pineal gland that does the imagining. It's not even in the head. It's very important for people to understand this, that they're going to be so far off the mark they're never going to recover anything in their whole lifetime that's worth much. Okay. There are people being worked with by colleagues of mine, kind, wondrous beings, vast organizations of world systems, incredible master teachers, most of whom are not on this planet, who are willing to work with the people of Earth to help make this transition possible, this transformation. Some of what they are planning to do has already been accomplished, that the people on Earth, whether they're in the UFO and extraterrestrial communities, disclosure communities or not, most of them don't understand. A few do, that the polar flips of this planet have been ended. Because it's not the Galactic Alliance or the organizations of hundreds and hundreds of millions of world spacefaring systems that did that. There were beings called silent mentors, that's what I call them. They are the actual beings who run the mechanics of creation. In other words, beings, spherical, who keep galaxies spinning on their axis and planets and moons and stars doorways between dimensions, they guard them, bases on Earth, bases on other planets, uh, different lower dimensions of time and space, a big void that separates those from the more majestic and wondrous higher realities above that void, made of a pure positive energy. There's no negativity there, no good and bad, no space and time. It's beyond that. There are forms there, but you have to be a conscious being to play there and co-create there. Because when you change something there, it's directed to change the lower worlds. It cannot be done from here. People know that inherently they're powerless down here. It means that we're not meant to claim power ever. We are co-creators with the one power, the one living energy, the one power. When you imagine something in it, the transformation of your body, the healing of your body, turning on genomes, living forever, being able to get in and out of your body, it will co-create that with you, provide the power and the circumstances and the beings and the teachers to cross your path. It does that. We do not. People suffering from the delusion of power think they have control over this one energy somehow as a personal, selfish thing. They suffer terribly, and then they usually end their lives because it's a teacher. And it's incorrect thinking completely to think that you control power. Power is not, the source behind life is not a tyrant, like some tyrants have propped themselves up to be in the lower dimensions that demand worship and give you nothing in return, except a pitchfork in hell if you don't obey them. That's not the source behind all life at all. And those beings are being changed as we speak too right now. Not by the Galactic Alliance, by the mechanics of the universe, these beings who run and keep in place these things floating in this one energy field. They're actually beings that do that. People on Earth as an atma are capable of becoming aware of them. A human body and brain personality on Earth thinking their body is not capable of knowing them at all. So it's choice. If people want to really know, they can. The opportunity and the energies around this Earth and in our solar system are here now, permanently, to provide people with the opportunity to step into the unknown and embrace it. Drop fear of themselves, fear of their own death, fear of their own eternal life. They're all in fear. And fear is a negative output, which means it produces negative results. And that's all it can ever do. You can't work with negative energies and get something to happen in the universe. It'll just create more negative things. It's spiritual law. I mean, you can't do it. I don't blame people on Earth, government leaders, Queen of England, or presidents of the United States, and leaders anywhere for the unconscious state. They're Putin in Russia, the leader of China. They grew up in the same kind of negative impacted world that everyone else did. They did not grow up learning any of this. And yet some of them, a few of them, know about extraterrestrials because some of them have met them. Good and bad. Very highly classified. I think it's, at this point, I could say that a lot of the more classified world leaders today in a classified government are aware they have no future in space the way they have been doing things. They know it even now. In order to make this transition in a safe, non-destructive way, people have to begin to be honest, kind, caring, not despicable, covert little lying monsters. That's going to produce their own trap around them for lifetimes to come. It's pointless, a waste of time and energy and space. So they're getting the help they need when they're out of their bodies at night. What do I mean by that? It means every single night when a person goes to sleep, they leave their body. Most people aren't really very aware of what they're doing when they're out, simply because they've never been taught from birth to do anything with it. So the dormant faculties just aren't used. But all of that can change when a person starts to become aware that they are something that can leave the body and does every night. They begin to remember. It's a natural process, really. They begin to remember. They begin to say, gee, a year ago, I didn't even know this. Now it's, how did I ever forget that? Of course I knew that. That's direct knowing perception. You can't think your way into that. You can't emotionalize your way into that. You can't reason it into that. You have to leap into it because it's a natural function of turn on higher faculties of this, not this. That people are eternal beings and they're taught this in faith, but they don't know it with any certainty. They don't know it as a direct experience. The difference between a master teacher and somebody on earth, real master teacher, is they know this. And if they're really wise, they do not tower over another person and make them worship them at their feet. They know that all the beings on earth have the potential to know what they know. So they mirror it. They hold it in place until people get up the courage to recover it in themselves. Because what happened to people in galactic history before they were forced to be born in a body with no memory happened in the lower dimensions of time and space, not just out there amongst reptilians or grays or somebody else in the physical universe. This suppression of memory goes into higher planes, planes that they think are heaven that aren't. And there are negative places in those places, just like here. As above, so below. As a being wakes up here on earth, the reverse begins to happen. As below, so above. It is a natural thing. We are destined to be co-creators with the source behind all life, whatever that is. You cannot be that if you don't know what that source is or how to communicate with it. Really know it. You can't believe it. That source does not allow people to worship it. You have to respect it. And each other. That's divine love. That really is divine love. Not the selfish, God, give me this and give me that thing. An Atma that's eternal doesn't need to do that. But when it's suppressed and believes it needs to do that, then it's misusing its own capabilities without realizing it. So I will put that out there. And do you have any questions, Perry, before we go on a little journey?
No, I'm ready to go on the journey.
Okay. Now, what I do to explain this for people who might be finding these little YouTube radio show videos on Perry's YouTube channel, I've been on many radio shows, not just Perry's, many around the world, sharing the same thing with everybody. And as time goes on, I'm able to share it more accurately and more deeply and more succinctly and more precisely, because the Atma works in precise understanding. When it's woken up to what it was made to forget, terrorized, even had bodies killed to make them forget this, and stuffed in a body with no memory to hide the fact that some tyrant snuck around the galaxy and caught them. They would never confront the vast organization of kind worlds, the Galactic Alliance, because they would lose a battle with them like they did before. So they sneak around and do stuff out of jealousy and fear, the need to dominate, that kind of thing. So many people have ended up on Earth either as part of their cultures under treaty where, there's no war, or they've come here as good beings from good cultures, or they were caught and put here without your consent or permission. And you don't need to be abducted by a little gray to forget everything. A person on Earth has already had that happen to them. Then when they get abducted, another implant goes on them to forget, and it distorts their whole life until reverse hypnosis regression therapy gets them out of it or something like that. And then they recover a normal life on Earth, but they still don't remember who they are or what they knew before they were born. That doesn't change them. So something deeper has to happen. When we go on these journeys, I work with the first half of the word human. It is not something that originated or got created on this planet. No individual on Earth ever created it. It was brought here from other worlds and out in the galaxies and from the higher dimensions back at the beginning before time and space was even started. The first sound or word behind all creation is Hu. If you say this and you pay attention, Hu vibrates the cranium upward. not downward. And you'll feel it vibrating the pineal gland in the center of your brain. You can feel it sending energy out in a sphere all around you. When we're doing that, we're telepathically linking into the one source behind all energy that has always been there. It goes beyond the worlds of positive and negative and psychic things which have their place, but it goes into something behind that, above that, beyond that cannot be perverted or misused by negative beings, negative misuse of technology, beings in or out of bodies, or anybody on any dimension. When a being starts to connect with that, they begin to return to the source from whence they came while they're living a life here, and they begin to remember. There's a certain protection that goes along with its use. You'll find out for yourself. When I send out the hue, as I do in the beginning of these guided journeys, I'm not there to rule over anybody. I'm not there to insist you treat me like your guru and sit at my feet. I discourage that. I encourage beings recovering their own self-mastery, recovering their own loving, confident nature that was suppressed in them long ago. If they're sincere, they will get the help from friends of mine to recover this, especially now. I send out these tones on successively higher tone levels because when I'm talking with you, it's a telepathic thing. My body's already in the sleep state or trance state we call sleep on Earth. I've learned how to make the voice work and talk and do what I do for your benefit while the body is in this state. I discovered this while writing because the things I wrote about were never ever put on this earth in any book anywhere at any time. And I had to find a way to publish them in a grounded and bridged way that will work for people on this planet. And I had to do it by seeing and experiencing what I was writing about. I didn't imagine it and make it up in my brain. I'm not that smart, nor is any being. It's something that the being can do when it looks into the grand multidimensional creation directly through the you and sees and knows things that are in it. We can do this without the slow travel of the speed of light. It helps put your astral, causal, mental, and etheric bodies you're running as a single spherical being on different higher heavens that you were made to forget you even have. Some people call it their higher selves, but they don't really know that higher self or how to get in touch with it, or how to motivate it to help you down here properly. It has to be conscious. So it puts those bodies at the same time in different planes and different time rates to sleep. And the spherical you running them all can then go on these journeys as a whole being for once. And at the same time, all subconscious drives and negative programs planted in people are turned off. And you're not allowed to bring them with you and keep them on when you're going with me where we go. The beings I work with see to that, so that just you can see and know things and look up above the ocean and actually see that you're out in sunlight and there's actually a world above the ocean. I'll begin those tones now. Somewhere in each of you will ring a tone, somewhere in the core of your being. Somewhere way back long ago, you used to understand this. There is a new type of consciousness streaming through the omnipresent first sound behind creation, what people call the divine spirit. It isn't something to be prayed to, really. It's something you imagine in, and it co-creates with what you imagine. So prayer in its highest form is imagining the good for all life. To do it properly, you don't imagine what you think should happen for another person. That's dabbling in the dark arts. No. You send out the benevolent goodwill of this one force, and it knows what's best to do for someone and when and how. If we outflow the hue through us all the time, It's sending out a good energy that is transformative in nature, something new in the omnipresent Holy Spirit itself, the people call it on earth without understanding what it is, this one living energy. And it begins to connect with that energy that's changed within it from the highest worlds recently. And it provides a certain wisdom and a new direction to motivate beings to only use their imagination to create that which will be of an uplifting benefit to all life. And that means we have to know what life is in the multidimensional creation. You can only have as much of God as you can respect and know consciously. No more, no less. It's the way it's set up. So if you become aware of other beings and wondrous beings beyond Earth and out among the stars and in higher dimensions, you're going to be embracing freedom of eternity. And naturally, you're going to recover the wisdom to know how to work with knowing this properly. I'll begin those tones now. The sound of this one primordial, omnipresent, meaning everywhere energy, non-nuclear, non-atomic, can sound like millions of buzzing bees or the hum of a motor or the slow rolling thunder of summer thunder, not threatening but kind, deep. You can hear it as clearly as you hear my voice, but not with physical ears. You can see it as a white golden light, but not with physical eyes. The Atma, you, running that body, when the eyes are off and the ears aren't being paid attention to, those parts of the brain are not on. And when you imagine, from that point onward, the real you is doing the imagining, not the brain. There's no light from images coming into the eyes from the physical world, so it's not coming from there. Imagine being above your body as a spherical orb of light. It's just using daydreaming. You do it all the time. Same way you imagine anything when you're sitting somewhere and you're bored and you're looking out the window, imagining being somewhere else. The brain does not do that. That's in between your skull, in your head. You do that. There is no motion picture camera, projector screen in the brain that can do that and show it to the brain. The brain showing it to the brain. That's silly. That's not its function. It's not its purpose. You, as a spherical being, have a number of layers of storage information and faculties in what you are and what you look like. And those faculties give you wisdom about the multiverse and how to circumnavigate it, how to get around, what your purpose is, why you exist, things like that. So you're looking at your body kindly and it's in a sleep state, the eyes closed, or laying down, and if you're capable, even with your eyes open. Some people can see with their eyes open and imagine being somewhere else. I can. So yeah, we can do that too, if that's what you're doing. When you look down on that head from about near the ceiling, you see a little thin stream of white golden light coming from the white core of your spherical being in through the skull to the pineal gland, gently lighting it up. And then it moves in a circle outward in all directions, past your skull and out into the world. And it's a flow of energy to all life. It connects to the true being in all other beings. It connects to the one energy in the atmosphere of Earth that you don't see, that's behind oxygen. And it moves outward. It's meant to go through us in a way, through our own conscious volition, how we imagine, that will be beneficial to us as it moves through us, but beneficial to all life as well. This is the correct way to use the creative imagination. When a being begins to do this properly, the rounds of births and deaths and karma and reincarnation come to a permanent end. Rounds of believing you're a physical body that can grow old and shrivel and drop off you, scared all the time that you may not survive it, not knowing what you are. That too is coming to a permanent end. The past prophesied negative destructive destiny for planet Earth as seen by beings thousands of years ago was permanently and forever altered in a new wondrous way about 8 or 9 Earth years ago. I don't argue with this point with anybody. I don't care what other viewpoints people have about it. This is my direct co-creative experience with beings from off-world. It means that not only have the polar flips for Earth ceased, but the opportunity to recover is now in such a way that never existed previously in the entire history, hundreds of billions of years. Not just the physical universe, the whole grand multidimensional creation. Be in space above the planet, looking down further out than the space shuttle ever flew or where the International Space Station is. And you are in this void of space, and you can see the polar ice caps of Earth, the oceans, the land masses, and from up here, you don't see any roads or cities or barriers between countries. It's one planet, oceans around it, polar ice caps, and a barren meteor crater pockmarked moon that does not turn on its axis as it moves around the Earth. And in the distance, the sun. But when you're up here as a spherical being, with others who are here, which I will introduce to you in a moment, you see this black void of space as a white golden light, and it's packed with energy. Dark matter. Not even more smart, intelligent scientists call it that anymore. Or they shouldn't, because it's not dark at all, except to human eyes that can't see into high enough frequency to see what it looks like. Electronic instruments and such can see it, and so they can print out composites of time-lapse photography of what nebula and gases look like, and they're going into infrared and ultraviolet and X-ray. These are all various forms of the speed of light. 286,000 miles per second is only what human eyes can detect. There is no limit to it, really. That means for people to have an understanding of higher science and how to get around the universe and the physical universe, and even out of body into other realities, they need to have a working understanding of what that energy is that is not molecular or nuclear in nature. It is the first sound, first energy. We're all part of it. No one can deny this. It's even halfway awake. The spherical, what we really are that people call soul on earth, has no beginning in terms of space and time. It is beyond ageless. It is an individualization like a drop of water out of a mighty galactic ocean of the same substance. And that ocean of light and sound that exists far above the void known to Buddhists and some other esoteric groups on earth is not made of matter. And what makes up the structure of that galaxy in its core are beings. We come from there. Before human bodies were even developed by very advanced scientists in the lower dimensions of time and space, and then raised up evolutionarily to where a being like myself or any of you could run one, gather information from the molecular plane of existence where its atoms are made, like a body on Earth, and report that back to what's running that body hovering above it. That information and new insights into how to create and fix problems is supposed to be taken back to that ocean of sound and light. We were meant to return to it while we have bodies alive, not after they die. Being aware of this is the first step to experiencing it. If you can't be aware of it and can't imagine it, you cannot have it. This living energy that people pray to that is there is not an individual being. It is a living, omnipresent force. It is conscious. The beings, the energy that makes up each individual atom is also conscious with it, but it needs to remember this, recover it, recall it, awaken it, enlighten it, rise it to the surface. The only thing in the way of anybody recovering this fully is subconscious fear and doubt. Negative emotions and imagination that block the use of higher faculties of being. In space, you're going to see that we are, all of us, Perry and myself and others, hovering as spherical luminous beings in a circle around a friend of mine. His name is Ambassador Torellian. He was a human being from the mighty Say-Rays race that vanished from creation over 1 billion Earth years ago. They evolved to the point where they helped many other types of form, human and humanoid and other types of spacefaring races, developed to the point where they became spacefaring, and then they stepped into the background and vanished to see what we would do with it. I think the answer to that is quite clear. If you use Earth as an example, not done very good with it at all. No conscious planet of people, no conscious people on a planet, rather, would ever even think about polluting their atmosphere or water, slaughtering animals and eating them 3 times a day as if that's normal, praying to some god they don't understand, and not knowing a thing till they die, really nothing of any importance. This is not the way normal worlds are supposed to work. We are supposed to be caretakers, custodians of worlds. The technology should have been put into keeping the air and water and our lives clean first before anything else was ever done. What good is it to play in the stars in a new spaceship with an anti-gravitic drive, thinking you're going to carry nuclear weapons out there and rockets to go protect yourself from alien races? They're not going to be allowed to take them out there in the first place. We don't have that right. Turellian is showing you a body form he had over 1 billion years ago. It's 18 feet tall, quite a bit taller than humans on Earth. Long, slightly curvy blonde hair, big blue eyes, about 36, handsome like a Greek god, white gown. Standing there with his 2 thumbs up, showing you a form in space with glowing white golden light around them. And behind that body form he's showing you is a spherical being like us, an Atma. Brighter than we are, but still. And he's showing you a form that looks to be about 36. And then you suddenly realize you have a form that looks just like you on Earth. Whatever your condition on Earth is, here in space, you see a body forming out of the ethers, the white golden light that's everywhere, that looks just like you, 36, perfectly, flawlessly formed and healthy. And this is so we can recognize each other. It's made of energy. It's really part of the Atma itself. So you'll see Perry, you'll see me. It looks to be about 36, smiling at you, standing to the right side of Turellian. Turellian showing you a body form that he manifested. He stores it in one of the teardrop-shaped higher faculties in the different levels of the Atma that he is, or soul. And he utilizes the omnipresent living energy to co-create it, manifesting a golden grid pattern around the DNA, and it forms into the body he's showing you. This body is a light body. But if he needed to show you his real physical form on Earth, he could make it appear as a physical form you could touch. And when he's done using it for whatever mission he's on, he dematerializes it and stores it. He doesn't have the burden of running a physical body around all day long and all night like we do on Earth. Him and his race, the Say race, have many more strands of DNA in their bodies when they had them. So you could say they immortalized their bodies, but not by keeping them the same age in physical matter. They got rid of the need to run one around until they need one, so to speak. So he serves as an example of what we can become. What is our capability, our potential? And spending time to assist you all to be aware of yourself in the imagination out in space where you don't feel the heat or cold, you don't feel the radiation from the sun. You are made of an energy that is not dark matter, it's not space, it's not time, it isn't molecular matter, it's not bodies. It's not explosive nuclear explosions on a sun. It's none of that. The reason we come up here outside the atmosphere of planet Earth, because the atmosphere of planet Earth is saturated with negative frequencies. From all the things people have thought and done to each other, to plant life, to animal life, to humans, to each other, in the history of that planet, is still bouncing around inside that atmosphere, bouncing off the ionosphere just like a radio wave does. And so people are surrounded by some pretty diabolical things all the time. And yet they are Atmas and they don't know it. If you're awake as an Atma, none of that negative stuff can come near you, even on Earth, even in the body you have there. But to do that, you have to outflow the hue through you for the uplifting benefit of all life. Then you're sending out an energy that nothing of any negative nature ever created in the lower worlds of time and space, nor misuse of technology, nor any being in or out of bodies or tyrant race can affect you in any way. The only way a person can experience this is to experience it for themselves. Out here in space, that's possible above the negative influences of the planet. That's why I come here. We're going to visit the spaceship, which is stationed in the ice rings, or chunks of ice that make up the rings of the planet Saturn in our solar system. Turelian, who serves as a central focal point for these journeys, is not a tyrant. They would not allow you to worship him or put him on a pedestal, but you can respect him. He already respects you. And we're going to move as a group of beings in a circle around him. You're going to see several hundred other men and women appear with their physical 36-year-old bodies from different humanoid races in the galaxy, and the atmospherical hovering above them. These are master teachers that teach in a very high realm. I often take people there. And they're going with us on this journey to the Emerald Star cruiser stationed in the ice rings of Saturn. We're keeping this close to home these days, close to our own solar system, close to waking up what we are as an Atma, not the body, which is, by the way, asleep in the trance state back on Earth, heart working, blood pumping, lungs working. You can hear a truck go by, but you're also up here with me. The body's on automatic. No one is home. There is a white golden beam of energy that comes from the white core of your being down into the pineal gland to keep it running, creating serotonin, melatonin to keep the body alive while you're out. It is not something that can be broken. It's not a golden or a silver cord. When you look into space, beyond Earth and the moon, out into the void of space, you see a blue-green vortex of water beginning to form, circling clockwise. Starts as a cobalt blue star and then widens and begins to move until it opens a corridor of light and sound. And you can see, as if it's magnetized by a telescope, on the other end of this tunnel, the planet Saturn with its rings, a gas giant. And this group of beings, 200 that are forming a circle of beings around us on Turelian, and all of us in a horizontal plane around them, are moving as one group into this wide, whirling, luminous blue gleam. Looks like water, but it's not. And you can see through the walls of it and the stars of space. And we're shooting down at a tremendous speed. And the next moment, you see the planet Saturn suddenly pop in front of you. You look behind you and you see this vortex dwindle to a cobalt blue star and vanish. Now, you're looking at the moons that circle Saturn. You're looking at the rings. And down in the foreground, down below the surface lever, these ice rings are about 1.5 miles thick. They're not real thick. Some of them are the size of skyscrapers, some of them are small. And we're seeing a long cylindrical ship floating down in the ice rings with an electromagnetic blue field around, electrogravitic. It has a bridge control room on one end and another bridge on the other end, identical, so it can move through interdimensional doorways either way. You can see it's over 1 mile long, the blue-gray metal. And along just above the central equator of the ship, going around it, are these horizontal, 6 foot long, 3 foot high oval observation windows. There's a curved rectangular window around the front of the bridge control room, and you can see beings working inside there, human and others. And you look at the central section, we're all doing it. You can see galactic scout craft about 30 feet across with a blue anti-gravitic light around them and 3 hemispheric pods on the bottom, moving towards the central hull of this ship. One after the other, they raise their molecular time rate. The gravitational field around it does this. And they're able to pass right through the metal hull of the ship. And then you can see it in through the ship, and they lower their vibration rate to become solid, and they land on a floor. It's in a long football field-sized hangar bay. There's a conveyor belt running down it that you get gravitationally grounded to from a pyramid opening on one end to a pyramid opening on the other. And you can see personnel moving down there rapidly. Others are working on parked craft. They are human and humanoid from different world systems. Some have blue skin, some snake-like skin, human-like, violet eyes, silver hair, different types of races. All those represented on Earth and more. Technicians. And then you see the hull of the ship again. We are around Turellian. There's 200 other male and female beings around us. And you're going to see that they all depart circling us, and then one at a time they enter the central hall, just like the ships did, pass right through the metal hall. And they're moving towards the front of the left side of the ship facing us. And they're going into a lounge area, and you can look right through the hall and see there's a 60-foot high long lounge social area in front of a number of the oval windows that look down upon the ice rings of Saturn and out into space. And you can see them all appear as spherical beings running a 36-year-old body walking on plush blue carpet. Turellian is standing tall at 18 feet. And then suddenly you find that you are inside this lounge area of this Galactic Alliance Emerald Star Cruiser. It's one of the smaller ones. It's only a mile long. And it is stationed permanently in our solar system to do two things: to prevent tyrant extraterrestrials from re-entering the system, kind of a policing action, and to help educate and train people who come here out of body from Earth to begin to remember who they are and what they are. And then you look around and you realize there's 200 of the ship's personnel standing around these blue glass oval top tables and egg-shaped white chairs with blue cushions and different people sitting in them, some standing, and you're standing there on it. You can look down and see your bare feet wiggling in this plush, vibrant carpet. Now, this is an energy body made of pure energy. They can see it. You're showing them a form. And they also see the Atma that is hovering behind it, the real you, the sphere that you are. And you can see that hovering above each of them. Some have snake-like eyes, handsome, beautiful, some bald, some no hair, some longer ears, pointed ears, blue skin, snake-like skin, but not scaly, not frightening. Different colors. Some have red skin, green. These are from world systems of human and humanoid races, and some other that are bipedal that aren't human at all, that are kind, spacefaring races that make up a collective of the Galactic Alliance, Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds. And it is centered on a planet called Zitronami near the galactic core, not in the core, near it, in the Milky Way galaxy we live in. So they come from there, a long ways away from here. And these personnel are going to walk up to you, men and women, smiling, and they place their right hand over their heart and give you a little nod. It's a sign of respect. Do yourself a favor and do the same to them. These are technicians, 200 of the ship's personnel, that work with removing subconscious programs that are negative. They will simply telepathically tell you that if you're willing to, you can go out of your body at night from Earth. They can meet with you and help you to recover who you are. These beings radiate a magnificent kindness and depth of wisdom. They are well trained. Many of the beings that are looking at you now, ship's personnel, that appear to be 36 years old, have bodies on that ship you're seeing that are over 2 or 3 or 400, 500 years old. Most of them have the equivalent of 10 PhDs of training or more by the time they're 10. Because they have photographic memories like people on Earth should have. They're telepathic as well as use vocal cords. And they know who they are that isn't the physical body. So they can help you. You have to ask. They are not tyrants. Turellian is standing behind us with two thumbs up. He's radiating a golden white light from his hands. This is the source energy of creation itself. And he's maintaining a constant, steady, supportive energy so we can leap into this until it becomes natural for us. The commanders of this ship, a man and a woman, about over 6 feet tall, are standing up from two egg-shaped white chairs with blue cushions, and they're greeting you with the hand over the chest again. And they're telling you about your being given permission to visit this ship. There are facilities on it where you can sit down in a chair and get rid of these terrifying things. Getting rid of a terrifying subconscious program that misdirects your life isn't something you dwell on after it's done. You do it, you put it away as a memory, and you move on. The only purpose of remembering negative things from your past, why you ended up on Earth with no memory, is so you can put it away as a memory, and then the higher faculties it's suppressed begin to resurface. This is why we do this. This is a technology and a ship of beings that there is no force on Earth whatsoever, nor out in space, that can deter, alter, control, command, or attack. It is not there in any way, shape, or form to be harmful to life on Earth. It is there to help people recover who they are so they can run the planet correctly and then take their place among the stars. It's just that simple. Be outside the ship now around Turellian, looking down on it, and we're leaving Saturn behind. You can see it shrinking to a point until you see the whole Milky Way galaxy, and then the Andromeda galaxy and millions of other galaxies shrinking to a point and vanishing. And you see a white golden light everywhere. All you see is a white golden light. And then you look down and you see that we are now hovering above 6 snow-covered mountain peaks. We have moved beyond the lower worlds of time and space, beyond the physical, astral, causal, mental, and etheric, across the void, past the realm of the Atma plane, the first of the higher realities, and into a special plane created between the 6th and 7th dimensions of the higher realities. And there you see a floating landmass, circular, many, many miles around. And there's a white glowing beach surrounding it. And down below your feet, you see 6 snow-covered mountain peaks. And off to the west, down on the lower plateau, a 100-foot wide marble floor and a blue glass transparent administration tower rising up next to the western mountain, a spherical flattened clear center, a fountain inside it with a golden white shaft of light coming down in it, and it rises up to a point. Down at the bottom of the white marble floor, you see roadways extending straight as an arrow all the way around the entire circumference of this landmass, going through tunnels through the 6 mountain peaks, coming out tunnels, and ending on the beach surrounding the entire structure. It's floating in a luminous cobalt blue light. There are no moons, no suns, no stars here. This is the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, and it is a place brought into creation recently so that beings that run the mechanics of creation and beings that are master teachers and students who have that potential are being brought so they can mix it up and create new ways of doing things together to solve the biggest problem in eternity. And that is how to make the lower planes of time and space mirrors of the upper realities. This is our job. It's not going to go away. We will not be able to ignore it forever. The energy that supports this floating landmass, if you look at the blue atmosphere, behind it is a white golden light, same as you'd find in space between the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun. And it can operate on multiple dimensional levels of both non-matter and matter realities. There are 144 parallel dimensions in the physical universe alone before it becomes what people call the astral plane, and so forth up into the etheric. But after it gets across the void into the upper worlds, we don't have those kinds of divisions. One plane of existence, like the Atma plane just below here, the U Expansionary Academy, and the worlds above and the parallel realities above it, you move through as if you're moving from one light brighter to another brighter light. And things change. You can hear a sound that sounds like in this blue atmosphere. You can feel it in the white core of your being. Taurelians out there, we're still in a circle around him. 200 other master teachers have come with us from the Galactic Alliance, and they're hovering in space in this atmosphere above these 6 mountain peaks, looking at the ocean off in the distance. Each of these right roadways has a right and left turn down them, and each one goes into a clearing. There's a different type of teaching facility in each one. Some with pyramids, some with spheres on tripod legs, some with rectangles, some with octagons, some with all kinds of things. Different types of botanical paradises in each one, and they're each for a different purpose. The white golden light you see in the blue atmosphere behind everything here is what is supporting this reality. There are no moons, no suns, no stars, no planets here. There are physical looking things and constructs, but they're maintained by beings so that we have a place to operate. This particular location is where we create new ways of doing things outside and beyond the fields of negativity and negative nature that can, when produced here and tested, be instituted in the lower worlds. This is what we're meant to be doing. As far away as this may sound to you, it's also happening in the present moment of eternity, within the center of your own being. Why? Because the center of your own being, which is spherical and a white golden light, is made of the same energy. So you see, we're connected to it all the time, or we would not exist to run bodies as beings. You can hear the sound coming from this white golden light behind the cobalt blue atmosphere. You can smell flowers and exotic scents you can't even pick up on Earth. You can breathe the atmosphere as if you have lungs and feel it. But the body you have here standing in the atmosphere in front of this sphere is not a physical form. It's pure energy. You can hear the sound coming from this first sound behind creation that comes from even higher realities. It sounds like millions of men and women's voices singing the hue on multiple levels like I did in the beginning, in perfect, flawless harmony. And then it blends into one whole round, vibrant, radiant sound. Everything here is self-luminous. There's no sun to light the land. The atmosphere, the trees, the plants, the mountains, they all have their own luminosity, and so do we. When you look down through these 6 mountain peaks, you can see a round circular valley in the basin between them and a small white island surrounded by a luminous blue-green lake. When you come down and inspect that, there's a pedestal about 4 feet high made of like lapis lazuli. It's a blue stone with gold lace through it, though it isn't that here. It's a much higher element. And hovering above it, 4 feet wide, is a cobalt blue crystal transparent sphere and a blue star in the middle of it. When you look at this sphere, you can see a shaft of white golden light coming down from higher above, full circumference of the sphere, passes down this blue support pedestal, and then disappears below this landmass on its way to the lower worlds to support things. As it leaves the bottom of this landmass and we come out the bottom and look up, you can see that there are amethyst crystals, perfectly formed, that go down to a central larger one. And this golden white light is pouring out the bottom of this amethyst-colored crystal, and we suddenly find ourselves in it, riding downward with Taurelian and 200 other beings in a sphere around us, until you suddenly stop hovering above planet Earth, right where we began the journey. And when you look at this Earth, you can see that it is not the Earth you're familiar with, it because it has no polar ice caps. There is one big continent centered over the equator from the left to the right. It rises up near the North Pole about a third of the way below it, then down to the southern pole a third of the way above it, then back up. Another continent 2/3 its size. On the other side, you can see right through the planet. And down on that point, a third of the way up from the southern pole, is a crescent-shaped emerald green beach glowing. You can see it from space. And you look over and look at the moon and you suddenly discover this moon has oxygen and atmosphere and rain clouds and 5 domed cities on the front as it's turning on its axis with gravity. And it's moving around the planet. And as it comes and turns, in front of you, you see 2 domed cities in the mountainous area on the back side. This Earth and this moon are in what is called the third higher parallel dimension of physical universe. 2 steps up from the Earth you're familiar with. And there is this emerald green beach. You look down and you find your feet sinking, bare feet sinking into this glowing sand. And then you realize you're in a tropical paradise. And it's in a curved crescent-shaped beach, and at the back of the curve is a brown moss-covered path going straight back a mile. And off to the right inland, one single snow-capped mountain, and off to the left on a higher plateau, a huge dome covering 3 four-sided golden quartz-capped pyramids. And you can see a lake, kind of a glowing blue-green lake. And you can see little ivory dome dwellings and little ivory roadways. And in the background of this dome, a semicircular mountain range, small, with little waterfalls for the aesthetic pleasure of the people who work there. And you look down at your feet, and you look behind you and see Turellian standing up to his knees in this ocean water, this beautiful blue-green water, with his 2 thumbs still up, putting out this golden white light. And you look down and see this green energy, a gift from an alien race, move up your legs, up through your head. You look up smiling, goes into the white core of your being, the real you hovering above this energy form, and out to the green layer. It's a concentric layer of teardrops, and it's a green layer, and it's lighting some of those up. This has to do with recall and remembering. And then you're above this planet looking at it, and now you see the Earth you're familiar with. Polar ice caps, barren moon, meteor craters, the sun in the distance. And you find yourself hovering above your body back on Earth as a sphere of light, and you see a little thin stream of white golden light coming down from the white core of your being into the pineal gland, the center of your brain, and then radiating out in a sphere until it gets to about 2 miles across. And it remains there. And then it continues past that sphere and out into 3 pyramids that are stationed on Earth now. 2 at the bottom of Earth's deepest oceans, quite large, and 1 inside a hollowed mountain in the Himalayas, and they are turned on. There is a fountain inside each one with a shaft of white golden light. The beings who run the mechanics of creation to hold everything in place are in charge of these. The energy coming from the upper worlds where we just were passes through these pyramids and is distributed out through the planet, out into space, where it connects with a giant pyramid stationed between 2 stationary asteroids, floating in space in the asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter that circles as an asteroid field in the orbit of a planet that was once there. And the energy continues on to other pyramids now stationed between individual stars in our galaxy. They exist in physical matter. They can be detected, but they are not physical matter, and they cannot be manipulated or destroyed or attacked or any other thing. And they are there for a specific purpose. They are there because of the way things are changing in the upper realities to effectively change without destruction the way the lower worlds of time and space are run. And we are all in the crux of hanging our toes off the end of a surfboard on a giant wave moving in one direction. That's kind of where we are right now. Be kind to yourself. Endeavor to imagine only that which will be of uplifting benefit to all life. Pull yourself out of dwelling on negative things. Do it of free will. When you're ready, open your eyes.
Great journey, great energy, Scott.
We would go many other places, but it takes a lot of time. So I endeavor to get people, thank you, you're welcome, but I endeavor to get people to experience a number of different jumps in vibrational reality so they can begin to think and imagine as a multidimensional being, because the spherical being they are is multidimensional in its capabilities. It's like that picture you have back there in your cupboard.
Yes.
So I've done this many times, but I will show, I'm not going to explain them. There's some people being prepared to help back what I'm doing more on this world, very wealthy, and they have going through some quite consciousness changes right now. This is the Sayers agenda. Here is the ship we just visited. These are the scout craft. Here's the ice rings. That is Saturn. It's on the back is Mark Sandfield being rescued. He's in a single tent camping trip by himself. 3 alien assailants are trying to kill him. He gets beamed aboard this craft by a human, and his journey begins. There are techniques in the back of this book for the prologue and all 29 chapters that work with the U to help people remember. So they have that advantage. The Emerald Doorway is book 1 of the Parallel Time Trilogy. And this is what we really look like as an Atma or soul. I won't even explain the rest of this except to say that this event on the cover, these are real actors portraying these to make real people on these covers. And it's quite an expensive undertaking to do this. But they're being introduced to this source. Here's Kalim's ship. That's Kalim. And it's hovering stationary. This is an interdimensional doorway to the 5th level. We went to the 6th, between the 5th and 6th. And this is after Lemuria was destroyed in Atlantis, a colony that was almost independent at the time, 100,000 years ago. Not the Atlantis that Edgar Cayce talked about. That was destroyed much later. But this is about extraterrestrial involvement in that event on Earth. And these are all extraterrestrials, by the way. Human, though, or humanoid. So I'll leave you all with that. Do you have any other questions?
Just want to say these 2 books, must read them, Scott. Very good books. In this lifetime, you cannot miss these 2 books.
Well, they're based on direct experience, so they can help you have direct experience. It's simple.
Yeah, because I have my own direct experience from these 2 books and from you too, that I can confirm.
Well, it's always taken a lot of courage, I think, for you, Perry, to do this little radio show. I thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Anyway, you'll find the website address for much more that you can find out about this work at paralleltime.com. And Perry will have it up on our YouTube channel in the video when you go look it up. Okay.
Yes.
I will say sayonara and good night and pleasant dreams to all of you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to Scott. And please thumb up, subscribe to this video if you think benefits to our life. Thank you, Scott.
Good night.